you haven't been able to progress and you've decided that maybe dirty bulking is the way to help you gain weight and progress in the gym. We'll be diving deeper into dirty bulking, the pros, but mainly the majority of cons around and associated with dirty bulking. Firstly, I want to say I've never dirty bulked myself. I've never struggled to put on weight, and therefore I've never resorted to dirty bulking. I'm not a hard gainer, so I understand that some hard gainers might find that dirty bulking is the only option to continue to hit their goals. However, even for that group of people, I have a solution, so stick around to the end of the video where I'll be going through what you could do even if you're a hard gainer and you don't need to dirty bulk. Chapter 1, the physique aspect. So, if you don't know what dirty bulking is, it is basically eating in a huge surplus. And when you eat in a huge surplus, you're giving your body a lot more resources and calories than it needs. And the theory behind this is if you do this, you'll be able to gain muscle much quicker compared to a smaller surplus. This is actually true. So in a given time frame, let's just say person A who's lean bulking and person B who's dirty bulking. In 1 month's time, the person B will be able to gain more muscle because they'll be gaining muscle quicker compared to person A. However, if you were to give person A this enough time, they soon would also be able to gain the same amount of muscle as person B, but they'll just take much longer. You may say then, isn't it better to dirty bulk because you're able to gain muscle much quicker? However, there is a problem. The trade-off of gaining muscle just that tiny bit quicker is that you'll gain a disproportionate amount of fat in the same amount of time. So, take for example person A, who first started off with 1 kilogram of muscle, and person B, who also started off with the same amount. After 1 month's time, person A gained 1 kilogram of muscle. This is just a hypothetical situation where in reality you won't be gaining that much unless you're in your earliest or first year of training, and even then it's very slim chance that you'd gain that much. So back to the example. Person A gained 1 kilogram of muscle in the first month, and person B gained 1.2 kilograms of muscle in the same month, and they gained more because they were able to dirty bulk and eat more calories. That 0.2 kilograms increase in muscle mass would equal to a 0.8 kilograms increase in fat mass. So in addition to the additional muscle they gained, person B would gain at least 0.8 kilograms additional fat mass compared to person A. To prove my point over here, I've got some evidence, and I picked this up from Jeff Nippard's video where he talked about the bear mode. So basically where he ate in a large surplus, and it was almost as dirty bulking, but there was a slight difference. Anyway, so over here in this evidence, there was a study done by Gartha and colleagues, and there were 2 groups. So the first group ate in a huge surplus because that was the whole point. They ate in a 600 extra calorie surplus per day, as you can see over here. And then there was a second group who ate in a slight surplus. So the difference was one was dirty bulking, which was this group, and this group was lean bulking. And if we look at the 3 changes which were measured during the research, this one over here was lean body mass. So the group who were dirty bulking were actually able to gain more muscle, just lean body muscle. So lean body mass compared to the lean bulking group. And it was not by much, but there was some difference, which is true. And as I already pointed out previously, you will be able to gain muscle faster, and therefore you will be able to gain muscle quicker. But if you look at that small increase in lean body mass, which is not even a percent, the fat mass that they gained, which was this much additional compared to the lean bulking group, is disproportionately larger. So just to gain this much extra muscle over here, they had to put on this much fat mass. And that's basically one of the cons of dirty bulking. that's not a problem in itself, because person B has gained so much more fat compared to person A. They'll need to stay in a much longer, prolonged and aggressive fat loss phase. So their calorie deficit phase is going to last for much longer and it's going to be much more aggressive. So they'll be losing at a much faster rate compared to person A. What happens is that because these are two factors which increase muscle loss, and so that additional benefit of being able to gain muscle faster during the dirty bulk will be negated or completely cancelled when you're cutting, because you'll need to cut at a much faster rate. And so when you are dirty bulking and you are increasing your muscle faster than lean bulking, because of the additional fat mass, you actually look worse than how you looked before. And here's a perfect image to demonstrate that. Also, when you transition from dirty bulking, which allows you to eat in a huge surplus, unrestricted, and eating whatever foods you like, and moving on to a calorie deficit, regardless of how flexible your calorie deficit is, you'll still be restricted. That change from comfort or to allowing yourself to eat whatever you like to a much more restricted phase will cause a lot of problems, especially transition problems, and sometimes it becomes very difficult to transition from one comfort phase to a much more self-disciplined restricted phase. This leaves a lot of people in what they call a permabulk, basically bulking forever. So now, moving on to the performance aspect. No doubt that when you are dirty bulking, you'll be able to get stronger faster compared to a lean bulk. I mean, think about it. You're able to put on more total weight on your body, both fat mass and muscle mass, more quickly. So, of course, your lifts will go up. Take person A again, a lean bulker, and person B. So they were both 80 kilos at the beginning with 160 kilogram squats. So, and over the 1 month bulk, or in person B's case, his dirty bulk, during that 1 month, his weight went from, hypothetically, from 80 kilos to 90 kilos. So he put on 10 kilograms. In the same time, he was also able to put 10 kilograms to his 1 rep max on his squat. So now his squat is up to 170. So many people may think that's a good thing. I was able to put 10 kilograms onto my squat. But the first problem that arises is your strength to weight ratio. So before person B started his dirty bulk, he had a 160 kilogram squat at 80 kilograms body weight, which means it's a 2-to-1 strength to weight ratio. But as he went through his bulk and ended at the first month, he gained 10 kilograms. But when you look at the ratio between strength, which was 170 to 90 kilograms, the ratio is less than 2-to-1, which means his strength to weight ratio has actually decreased, meaning he is technically stronger in an absolute sense, but in a relative sense, he's actually become weaker. Good on you, mate. Similar to how he has increased risk of muscle loss, when you're in a calorie deficit phase, your strength will decrease regardless. So that 170 kilograms, it's going to come straight back down. Tell yourself. Chapter 3, the health aspect. So now, in this chapter, I've got 2 parts to talk about. The first one is the psychological part, and the second one is the health aspect itself. So I've touched on the psychological aspect a bit before, and basically when you're in a dirty bulk, you're allowed to eat whatever you like because you need to get the calories in. This allows you to reward yourself with the treats and candies and basically nutritiously void foods, which are very tasty and hyper-palatable. Which means foods like McDonald's, fast foods, or anything very tasty, usually nutritiously void foods, and you're allowed to eat them all the time just to get your calories in. When you need to shift to a calorie deficit and practice that restraint and self-discipline to say no to those foods, it becomes very difficult. This is because while you were dirty bulking, you weren't practicing restraint at all. You were rewarding yourself whenever you liked, rather than when you knew you should and you deemed fit. And a consequence of eating more nutritiously void foods is you eat a lot of excess sugar, trans fats, and other unhealthy foods which you should be restricting. This most likely would result in deficiencies in vitamins and minerals, and because you're always eating less, like more unhealthy foods, you're not providing the right nutrients your brain and body needs to function most optimally or efficiently. Because you're also eating a lot of food in general, you're always stuffing your face, and that makes you more lethargic and tired all the time. Chapter 4, the maturity aspect. Eat big to get big, bro. We all know that saying, to get big, you need to eat big. Luckily, in the recent years, science has been able to prove that you don't need to eat as much or eat that much just to get results. In fact, it's the maturity to realize that to gain muscle and to progress in the gym, you don't need to eat extraordinary amounts. A lot of people online eat in huge surpluses, gaining 50 pounds of weight in 1 year. The next year, they claim that it's all muscle, but after they do end up cutting all of it, they're left with 5 to 10 pounds of muscle, and the remaining is just fat mass. Instead, if you're to lean bulk during the whole time, you'd be able to gain much more muscle in the best case scenario. And in the worst case scenario, you'd gain the same amount of muscle, but not need to go through all those ups and downs of overfeeding yourself and then putting yourself in a much more restricted state. So now, the solution I provide to people who struggle to get their calories in and find that dirty bulking is the only option. The first thing would be to include a lot more liquid foods. We all know liquid foods are less filling, so less satiating, and they're easy to consume. So for example, in the morning, if you were to have oatmeal, rather than having a bowl of oatmeal, you could pour the oats in a blender, use calorie-dense ingredients such as full cream milk, peanut butter, and sweet fruits like banana, just to increase the amount of calories you can consume as a liquid form. This means even if you were to consume it early in the morning and you have a very little appetite, you would still end up being hungry by 10 or 11 o'clock. The second strategy would be to consume more fattier proteins. This isn't a ticket for you guys to buy all the processed sausages in the world and finish them in a week, but rather to pick options which provide the same amount of protein but are higher in calories. So for example, if you were to have chicken breast, rather switching to something like chicken thighs, which have the same amount of protein but more calories, which would help you to hit your calorie target with the same amount of protein, but also choose more healthier options. Also, other strategies such as putting your phone away when you're eating so you focus on your food and finish it as quick as possible, and not drinking any water before or during your meals so you don't decrease your appetite by filling your stomach with water. Which are a couple of strategies you could use which may not completely help you in the beginning, but over time you could build on these strategies and eventually use more healthier and better eating habits to achieve your goals. I hope you enjoyed this video, and in the next video we'll be talking about the only 5 things you need to do to ensure that you're always progressing in the gym.